Well, Mr. Clark, on your little bio sheet, I didn't see the year you were born, but I'm guessing 40 or 41.
June 23rd, 1940.
All right. And you came here in 41, so where were you born?
And actually, we were in Brandon, Mississippi, and Mother went into Jackson. They had a little clinic there, and that's where we were born,
Okay.
there in Jackson. So,
And then moved from Jackson, Mississippi here in 41?
Well, actually, my mother had a sister in Jackson, and her daddy was there, and he was in the building business, and he moved to Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Okay.
And then we moved to Lake Charles, Louisiana temporarily for a while, probably just a few months.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually came out here from Lake Charles
Okay.
in July of 41.
So in about 1 year time, you went from Mississippi to Louisiana
That's
to
right.
Georgia.
Right.
What brought the family to Ackworth?
Well, I believe, of course, her mother was out here, and and grandmothers, sisters, brothers, and all of them were here. That's the only family that we had in Georgia. My dad, people were in Tennessee, Texas, and mother's people were in actually to Tennessee and Texas as well. My grandpa Gibson, he was in business in Port Arthur, Texas.
Okay.
And but we didn't have any people out here except my mother's mother, and they came into Georgia and before the Civil War. But that's the only kin folks we had out here was that one grandmother and her brothers and sisters.
And that's
So
what brought you here?
I guess mother, I think
What
that's
year then? And that was Daisy Kemp Gibson Chastain?
that's correct. Her first husband was my granddaddy, and he was out there most all of his life. I saw him probably 3 or 4 times his entire life because he was out there, and we were out here. And he's actually buried here, though. It's the only time he came to Georgia is for his funeral. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Oh, now, so your mother's mother is a native of, well, actually on the little bio that you wrote, you said he was born in Ackworth, but it was Cherokee County.
that's right.
So just outside of,
Just outside, just right in the edge of Cherokee, out in the Oak Grove area, Old Alabama Road. That's where all the Kemps. They were born and raised out there, most of them. And
the Chastains, of course, this isn't your direct family, I guess, but there's a lot of Chastains around the Kennesaw area.
right.
Is this one related to them?
I believe he was. I never did connect him with those Chastains, but I believe he was kin to them. And he, actually, his dad was here in Ackworth, and he was a leather man, made, harness. Back then, bridle maker, harness maker. And of course, Uncle Jim, that was his trade as well. And he could make about anything out of leather. My dad and Uncle Jim in about 1945, 46, actually had him a little shoe repair shop, and they didn't do a whole lot of harness repair, but the farming was going out of Cobb County along in that time, but they did repair shoes, and actually they were across town, Ackworth, on the other side of the tracks over there on, I guess, North Side Drive, where the Altries, Annis Fowler had his store, and Altries started over there in business as well. I think Macmillans were over there too at one time, but they were in one of Granny's and Uncle Jim's little building over there with a little shoe repair shop over there.
Great.
And
Well, why don't you talk about some of your earliest memories of Ackworth?
Well, we grew up north of town, about a mile north, actually right across the road from Unique Knitting Company, and they started in about 28, 29, somewhere along in there. But they built Atme Lumber Company across the road right next to us. There was a vacant lot in there between us and Atme that Atme stacked their lumber on. They had a planing mill, a planer inside the building there, and bought lumber and sold lumber. And but when we were small, my grandmother actually owned that lot, the vacant lot that they stacked the lumber on. Mm-hmm. And they had those lumber stacks stacked up in all kind of stacks and triangular figures and all kind of things. And we played all in and under and around on that lumber, jumping from stack to stack and all this stuff. But that was one of our little playgrounds. And we had the railroad was right behind us, and we had Atme beside us, and very noisy over there all the time. They had a concrete mixing plant there as well, where they mix concrete, and the box cars would come in there, and they'd unload sand and gravel out of those box cars. And they had these big pits, big vats made out of concrete that the car would roll over that big pit, and they'd open the bottom door of that box car, and that sand wouldn't come out a lot of times like it's supposed to. It's wet. And they had a man over there with a sledgehammer beating the side of that trap door there, and that was real noisy. But the trains going by and all that noise, well, you get used to it. I mean, you got where you didn't pay any attention to it, but we would jump in those pits. Mm-hmm. Off from the rail, we'd stand on top of the railroad, that little spur that went in there. And we'd jump down in those pits in that sand. And sometimes, after they used a lot of sand, it was pretty deep down in there. We'd jump right off down in that sand and gravel, and we played around that. Of course, I don't know if they really wanted us over there or not, but they never did really run us off. And, man, we had 10-Yard Creek back behind us, and we'd go down, of course, up to his young teenagers and fish. The lake came in about 51, I guess, 52 when they built the dam. 1948, 49, but we'd hunt and fish, mostly hunt down on 10-Yard Creek. And of course, we played a lot of ball early on. We was 11, 12 years old. We started playing baseball for Ackworth First Baptist. They had an RA chapter, Royal Ambassador chapter there, and most of the Noonday Association did as well. So we had teams in the Noonday Association to play against. Mm-hmm. But we started very early playing ball, baseball, football, and played all through high school. But of course, we'd go to Ackworth on Saturdays or something, watch a movie. And Red Hudson had the Legion Theater down there. And of course, you could get in for about 9 cents, or we'd get a dime and hit the road and watch Buster Crabbe and all the stuff at the movies. And but that. We had bicycles, and I think we got a bicycle when we was about 8, and we rode the bicycles till we was 16, till we got our license. And but we rode them to Red Top Mountain, and it was up this side of Carter.
Right.
Yeah, it was, and but we rode, and we even rode them down below town to Clark Field when we was playing ball. Mama didn't want us riding on the highway, Of course, that was the main road,
Well, I was
293.
wondering if you were going to Red Top Mountain, did you just go up the Dixie Highway?
No, actually, we went to Grizzletown, just north of town, and the road forked, and go a little back road, and
Was it paved at that time?
no, it wasn't. It was all everything gravel, but we'd ride up to Red Top, and they had a little beach up there. But we just looking around, messing around, and we rode bicycles down to Clark Field. But the way we got there, we'd go behind the house, cross the railroad track, and actually North Side Drive, dead end right behind our house there, across the railroad track, and we'd cross the railroad and get on the road, and we'd ride all the way to Ackworth and go on down south of Ackworth and cut through the mill village down there. And of course, the field was right near a lot of the houses. Right across the road was mill village for the Coach and Clark and all that. But we'd play a game or two and get on our bikes and head back to the houses. Probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 miles down there, I guess. But
How'd you get along with the kids from the mill village?
it was okay. We got pictures. I brought pictures of our team and all. A lot of those boys, at least 5 or 6 of them, played ball with us from at our church league, but we had boys from the country and boys from the city and boys from the mill village. So,
Well, tell me about Pastor W.A. Venable and how he was an influence on you.
well, he was probably one of the best pastors that I'm sure that I can remember at First Baptist. And he came along, and at about the time we were late teenagers, I guess, 14, 15, 16 years old. And he was just a good, honest, decent man, and he's just kind of a man that make an impression on you for sure. And he actually baptized me when I was 14, and he had a son, and he was on the ball team as well. Well, he had a daughter and a son, but the boy played ball with us as well. So.
Did Ackworth Baptist have a facility inside to be baptized, or did you?
Well, at the time I was baptized, they did have a baptismal pool inside, but earlier years, I can barely remember that they did have a little hole dug out beside the church, sort of to the rear, and that was an outside baptismal pool. And but I can barely remember that. But there's people here that can tell you more about that.
I've seen pictures of. We did an interview with Tommy Lee Long, and he has a picture of being baptized in what looks like a creek.
Oh yeah. Well, my wife was from South Georgia. She was baptized in a water hole, like they do. They don't have a lot of creeks down there. It's flat, and they dig these water holes for the livestock, for cows and whatever they got. And but a lot of people up here now, I know they had baptism holes, in the creeks, Pumpkin Vine Creek and Little Pumpkin Vine. A lot of the creeks around had places where they baptized, and but yeah,
But you got to be baptized inside.
yeah, yeah,
Don't have to do it in the summertime that way.
that's right.
So, the Lake Ackworth would have opened up when you were about 10 or 11 years old, I guess. Did you go down there a lot?
Well, of course, we were in school, right, at Ackworth Elementary, where McCall is now. That was Ackworth Elementary, no middle school. And we didn't, during school sometime, we would walk from school down there and learn how to swim, and this kind of thing, during PE or something. And of course, the weekends, people were up here from everywhere, Carsville, Meredith, the beach, and they had a little thing for dancing and concession stand and thing where you could buy hot dogs and stuff. But mainly of course, during the summers we worked. My brother and I worked construction and all, but on the weekend, everybody. I mean, that was the place to be. Was Ackworth Beach? Seemed like, because you couldn't hardly find a parking place. And but it was a good place to be. I never did. They took us down there to learn how to swim, but I never did learn how to swim. But it was nice.
So going to the beach meant staying on the beach, it sounds like, for you.
Yeah.
Talk about the Ackworth School. Any teachers that you can think of?
Well, I can remember about all my teachers from the first grade right on through. We had good teachers, and of course, then discipline was absolute must. None of this, stuff like they got now for you, get a lawsuit on you or a teacher or even a parent now for coming down too hard on a child or whatever. But my parents believed in it, and I got whippings at home. I never did get one at school, but when they'd whip somebody with a paddle or something, they did it right in front of everybody. I mean, they didn't take you. Sometimes if you went to the principal, of course, he'd whip too. And but it was a whole different world then than now.
Is that Mr. Hayes that was the principal?
Actually, no, it was T.C. Cantrell.
Oh, yeah.
Hayes came later. He was at, I believe, the middle school, I believe. And of course, Bill Hamilton was at the middle school as well as principal. But T.C. Cantrell was the principal. But we really had some good teachers, and they.
So did you have Fanny McClure?
Fanny McClure, I got through the second grade. I had Miss Hubbard, but Fanny McClure, and of course her sister Charlotte was teaching as well in high school. She taught my sister in high school. But Miss Hubbard was my teacher in the second, and Fanny B was a second grade. And she might have taught first too, but Miss Payne was there first, and Hubbard, and Miss Pittner, Miss Duncan, and Miss Pope. And Mr. Watson, now he made a real good impression on you, Judson Watson, and he was absolute discipline. I mean, he was for discipline 100%, and he good man. We had Bible reading. He'd read the Bible every day, pray after he read the Bible. But buddy, I mean, we'd go out and down on the flat, they call the flat down below our little playground, and he'd play softball with us and pitch and do all this. But buddy, when you was in the classroom, if you needed a whacking, he'd give you one right there in front of everybody. And he was probably one that stood out probably as far as elementary school more than anybody else, because he was a good teacher, and like he wanted everybody, when you to learn, and you couldn't learn jumping around and doing this and doing that. But I'd say he was at the top of the list.
Well, one name I recognized from the list of influences was Emery Sewell.
Yeah.
I gather you were active in sports
Right.
in high school years.
Right. He was another good man, and of course, Coach Al Matthews was the I guess head coach. Emery came in, I guess, as assistant coach, but he was. It's just you can't say enough good things about him, and but we'd do sprints, and I, of course, was a halfback. My brother was quarterback. Coach Al, he was older, but Sewell was a young man, not far, I don't think, out of college when he went over to Mississippi Southern or somewhere. He's from Mississippi, and he was a halfback. And we'd do sprints, and he'd run along there with us. And sometimes he'd outrun us, and sometimes he wouldn't outrun us. He was fast, but he was a good man and active in church. And I never did hear him sing, but they said he had a real fine tenor voice. And I know a lot of people couldn't say enough about his singing, and he was a good man.
What about Coach Matthews?
Same. He was a good man, and he just was the kind of man that wanted you to do right and act right, and he taught, I guess, as much on the field about character and just good clean living, I guess. He was a good man, and we kept up with him all through the years, even up till his death. And but he's the kind of man that you don't forget. Of course, him and Coach Sewell both, and they made as big a influence on me, and I know the rest of the players, as any of the teachers in the classroom, because he was down there where he could pretty much say what he wanted to, and not, had you right out there where he could teach you about life and football as well. And
what kind of classes did they teach?
Coach Sewell, he taught civics, and it was something else. I know I had one or two classes on. I don't know what in government. It might have been government civics. But a coach, I think Coach Al taught some biology and science classes, but they didn't teach any. Coach Al didn't teach me anything in the classroom except on the field. But Sewell did.
Did you have a good football team?
We went to state our senior year, and we lost that game. The only game we lost all year was a state championship. Played Waynesboro down in Covington. We had to play at a neutral field, but we had a good team, good bunch of boys, and had good, of course. We had a good track team, football team, and baseball. We played. I didn't play any basketball, but well.
Did you ran both track and played baseball?
Yeah.
They taking place at the same time?
Well, no. It seemed like we might have had a conflict, but most of it. It wasn't. I don't remember it being too much of a problem, but we stayed in shape. I mean, me and my brother, we were in shape all the time. We worked and run and played. We weren't playing high school ball. We were playing RA ball. We played RA ball till I was 16, and that's the first organized baseball I played was with RAs, and I started with about 11. I was about 11 or 12 years old, and
talk about the RAs.
The RAs. I'll say this: the Methodists also had groups. A group they called the YFs. They were the youth fellowship group, and we even played those boys in baseball too. And but RAs were Royal Ambassadors, and we had, of course, counselors. A couple of counselors that were church members. Seemed like a couple of them might not have been church members. They were maybe fathers of some of the players, but the RAs was of course, a church Christian organization, and it was similar to the Boy Scouts in that you study and learn things, and Bible verses and things related. Things like that, and but we had some good counselors, and of course we did have boys that they didn't attend too many of the meetings, but they liked to play baseball, and But we got the high school boys that my senior year, the baseball team. I never had. I looked at this the other day, looking for some pictures to bring down. There was, let's see, I think I counted 11, 8 or it was about 10 or 11 of the boys that played high school baseball that played for RA ball while I, from time I was 10, 11 up till we quit when I was 16. But
And where were the fields that you played on?
we played down at Clark Field.
All the games were down?
Right, everything we done was on Clark Field. But we did have a little field south of town where there's a real sharp curve. There's a church right back, that's Nance Road, I believe, but back this side of Nance Road, somebody owned some land down there, and it was just a grown-up field, rocky, I mean really rocky. And they said, well, y'all could use this. You have to clean it up and, pick up the rocks. So we got all the RA boys down there, and we probably picked up a couple of ton of rocks off that thing. But we used that for a practice field. I can't ever remember playing a game there because, nothing was marked off for us bases. And I think we did put up a little screen for behind the home plate. But most of our football games, our RA games, and everything went on down there at Clark Field. And
you said you were a running back. I imagine you played both defense and offense. What did you play on defense?
Linebacker. And thing about when I was coming through, we didn't have enough players to have an offensive team and a defensive team. And when you went in, you stayed in. I played my senior year. I never left the game. You play halfback and then that linebacker, or maybe even halfback, but most of the time I was middle linebacker, outside linebacker. When the ball changed hands, whatever, we stayed in the whole game. I mean, just whole 48 minutes or whatever, and played all offense and defense. And of course, the coach then, if he wanted to run a certain play or something he thought might work, he would send in a substitute or something. But other than that, you were in for the whole thing. And we were in good shape. He believed in conditioning. And, you didn't run a 40-yard touchdown and run out here and, take a 15-minute break to get you wind or anything. No, none of that happened. And, but we were in good shape, I can tell you that.
I bet.
And,
what did you run in track?
Well, we tried it all. My brother and I, actually, beside our house was a little vacant lot. And we dug us a pit out there beside the house. It wasn't really a pit, about knee deep. And we'd go over to Acme. Of course, they had a planer mill over there, and they had all that shavings and stuff over there.
Oh, yeah.
And we took a duffel bag over there, just an old Army duffel bag, and we'd fill that thing up with shavings. Bring it back and dump it and go over there and get another load. And we filled that thing up, but we had some little poles sticking up where we could practice the high jumping and broad jump then is long jump now. Okay. And but we had our own little field event thing there. Of course, we had our poles high enough where we could pole vault. We brought a pole home. Of course, I had an old aluminum pole, none of the fiberglass stuff, but brought the pole home, and we'd practice pole vaulting and high jumping and long jumping, and but I ran the relays and field events and discus. I always liked the field events. I wasn't very fast. we didn't even have a track at school, the flat, and of course they didn't have anything. We just have to get out and run.
Where'd you have your meets?
Well, we had, we went to state 2 years. The last 2 years, we didn't have any hurdles, no track and nothing. And, but we'd had our region meet at Berry, at Berry College. Of course, they had track. And one of the schools, I can't remember if it was South Cobb or Sprayberry. Of course, they were in a lot higher class. We were just C-class school. And, but Berry, we had most of our meets at Berry. And, but we run against Model and Carrollton and Tallapoosa and Tryon.
But they were all C-class?
Yeah, most of them. Sometime coach would schedule a meet and invite, Sprayberry and the bigger schools, see how we fared against them. We fared pretty good against some of them. And but we stayed busy. I mean, we wasn't, we was doing something all the time as far as, between our athletics and all that stuff.
What did you play in baseball? What position?
Well, I pitched mostly, but I played first base some, and some after I got on up in, let's see, I think I'd catch too. And my brother, he played infield, and he pitched some too. But I pitched at Berry and for them. But I guess I did more pitching, than anything. But I didn't sit on the bench. I was out there on the field. I was doing something. I was first base, catching or doing something. And
tell me about the outstanding, most outstanding in citizenship award.
Well, that they of course they had an editorial staff for the yearbook, and they chose the superlatives or whatever, most athletic and most likely to succeed and this kind of thing. And but the teachers of all the teachers at Ackworth, they chose this particular award, and it came through the Civitan National Civitan Club, and of course the Marietta chapter was actually sponsoring this thing, and this was the first year that they had done it, and so it was voted on by the teachers, and of course they had a plaque, a wooden plaque with little brass-colored plates, and I got it at home, and I don't know how many years that went on, but I know it went on for about 8 or 9 because there's that many people. Of course, I was the first one I'm the only one on it from Ackworth High, of course, and everybody else is North Cobb. But
you were there at the last year for
we were the last year for Ackworth, and but I was really, really proud. I don't know anything else that.
You know what you did to win the award?
Well, not really. I guess just I really don't know, except just being a good, plain old average Joe, I guess.
Are you active in the community in any kind of volunteer work?
Well, then I can't think of anything because we spent our time, doing other things. Athletics being one of them, because I can't think of anything that I did that I was involved in with this Ackworth or anything, not then. But
well, tell me about your poetry writing.
Well, I didn't do much with that. I wrote a lot, but starting right out of high school, I guess, and I wrote some when I was at Berry. I think I published, I think one or two at Berry in their poetry thing. I kept on writing a little when I went to Southern, and they had a little poetry thing, where they put students' poetry in there. I had one or two in there, and I wrote all during, I guess, most of my adult life, and I got a lot of stuff just packed away, and I never did try to do anything with it. It was just more for, I guess, I didn't write. I didn't write just to sit down and write. I was one of these that I guess most people that write, whether it's songs or whatever, there has to be some inspiration somewhere, and or something has got to inspire you to do it. And sometimes it doesn't take much to do it, but if I felt like writing one, I could write it real quick and be through with it. And but I enjoy the writing. It was I guess a release kind of thing, because it's in there, and it sort of had to come out, that kind of thing.
What are most of your poems about?
Well, it's just, it'd be hard to say, I guess. I really, it's a lot of different things, I guess. And I didn't, try to write about any particular thing, but it's just whatever I saw or heard or read or something, it might spur a little thought.
Did you go straight to college from high school?
I graduated, I believe, in May. I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday, but the next day or two, of course, I'd already made arrangements at Berry to work up there that summer right after graduation. And I was at Berry immediately after I graduated and worked in their cabinet shop up there. And I like woodworking, always enjoyed woodworking, building things, making things. And we built the furniture for, actually it was a chest of drawers and a desk for a new dorm that was being built up there, Dana Hall. And I worked there for the entire summer. And of course, then school started. And everybody worked 2 days a week at Berry. That was their plan. School 4 days, 2 days work, go to church on Sunday. That was it. No exceptions. And but I enjoyed Berry the whole time. I'd finished up there if Mother hadn't wanted us to go to Southern to graduate together.
So you went 2 years to Berry?
2 full years, right.
And then 2 years at Georgia Southern?
2 years at Southern, right out, straight through.
What'd you major in?
Well, I wound up in business administration. I wanted to major in industrial arts, and if I'd stayed at Berry, I probably would have done that, and I should have done it at Southern as well. And of course, I had a minor in economics. They had a lot of economics courses, but I wound up in business. So,
So did you graduate in 4 years then?
Right.
So spring of 62, you graduated?
Right.
And then you got married in the fall of 62, or the
Yeah,
late summer of 62?
yeah, oh, that's right. And my wife, she was at Southern. She was a year behind me. And we had it all planned out. Hey, you're gonna finish, you know. And but she went back to school, and I stayed up here and worked at Lockheed. I got a job at Lockheed and in the tooling template shop, and that didn't last too long. They, you know, Lockheed, they hire and lay off and hire and lay off. And especially in tooling, you get tooling caught up. They threw for a while, but
62, I guess they were hot on the C-141.
that's right. And then later on, well, I worked at Lockheed twice in late 60s up to 71. I was on the C5 program then. And of course, Lockheed lost the contract, or lost part of the contract. They were supposed to build a lot more planes, and a lot more C5s, but they cut that contract. But anyhow, they did call me back, and I didn't go back that time. I went to, of course, I worked with International Harvester about 4 years down in Decatur, and then I went to Texaco in 71, I believe, January 71, and I was there 25 years.
What did you do for Texaco?
Well, I got there late. I was 31 when I went down there, and all the guys were ahead of me. See, and but I needed a job, but it was administrative kind of work, and I worked in several different departments. I was in personnel for a while. I worked in the consumer group, figuring bids and worked in wholesale group, retail group. They had all kind of departments. And
were you living in Ackworth all that time?
Living in Ackworth. But when I was at Harvester, we moved to Mableton. And we were down there about almost 3 years. And moved back to Ackworth and bought a piece of property out off Cheatham Road. And that was in 67, 68. We've been right there on right off Cheatham Road for 50 years. But anyhow, I just worked in different departments for Texaco. My wife taught she was a teacher.
Where did she teach?
She taught she taught a little bit at McEachern, and she taught some at the Vocational Tech School, Chattahoochee, down on South Cobb Drive. And she went to North Cobb. She taught, I think, about the last 15 or 16 years. She was at North Cobb. But we, in 1963, going back, I was in the Air National Guard. That was from 63 to 69 at Dobbins. And that, of course, had summer duty every summer and a couple of weeks, and a weekend every month. But that we had that too, trying to get started, with had our house built in 68, 67, 8, long in there. But
so you've been in the same house for the last 50
years? Been right there, yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about your children.
Well, we waited 5 years before we started our family. We married in 62, and our son was born in October 67. And well, my daughter, she was born in 70, January of 70. Our boy, he didn't, he of course graduated from high school, and he didn't have any desire to go on to school. But he was, even when they got out, before they got out of school, my son was working at a cabinet shop, building cabinets, and he really good at it. I hate to brag on a young one, but he was top notch in cabinet and building. And after he got out of high school, he worked for construction, building houses, and he worked for some for Batson Cook, big construction company. And but he wanted to drive a truck for some reason or other. And we sent him to school down in Florida, truck driving school, and he drove for other companies for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and he wanted to be an owner-operator, so we bought a truck, and then we bought a trailer, and he drove about, he drove about 14, 15 years, but he was an owner-operator for about 10 years till the recession came along, 2008, somewhere along in there. And he had to find another job, so he's working with Kroger. And our daughter, she was working before she graduated for an attorney, the city attorney here in Ackworth. And of course, she went to Kennesaw and majored in accounting, minored in law. And she is working for an attorney that actually went to Kennesaw. They had a couple of law courses, and they the boy, she knew that actually she works for him. He set up his own law practice, but he went to Harvard. When he finished Kennesaw, he went to Harvard Law School. Came back and called Holly and Holly was working, my daughter, at another job, and so he offered her a job, and they've been in the law business for, I don't know, 14, 15 years, and that's what she does. She's sort of a office manager, run the office kind of thing, you know.
Well, tell me how Ackworth has changed over the years.
Well, it's changed a lot far as the population, you know, the people around. Of course, it was just a very small town back in the 40s and 50s, I guess on into the 60s. And but the downtown area has basically the same, except for the renovation and modeling. They, you know, have torn down some buildings on one side of town there next to the railroad tracks, but it's just a lot more people, you know, subdivisions but people were always good and friendly. You know, you knew about everybody then, way back, but now it's just a lot different because you see people every day you don't know, but it's still a nice little town. Well, I don't know any place I'd rather be.
Great. Well, I think I'm about out of questions. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I appreciate you doing this. I mean, I'm glad and appreciate the people here in Ackworth that are trying to, you know, preserve the history, and 'cause a lot of cities, they don't fool with it that much, I don't think. But Mayor Allie Good, I appreciate him and all what he's done since he's been mayor here, because he's really done a lot. I'm glad they're revitalizing, parts of town and the houses and all that. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it, and I'm glad they're connecting, say, this side of the tracks with the other side of the tracks over there, because there was a lot of businesses over there, and my grandmother lived in one of them right over there on the end, on the corner there for years and years and years, in one of the little brick buildings there, and sort of hid back over there, but I'm glad to see it's all going on. They're making some good progress.
Great.
And
All right, well, thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.